All right, looks like we got 42 people in the room. We'll just give it another minute just for any stragglers walking in or coming into the video. All right.
I know I'm super excited for this topic today. I think this is going to be a good one, and we have a lot of information to bring to you guys today. So yeah, buckle up. This is going to be a ride.
I put a poll in the chat right now until we get fully started.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Okay, let's see. While everyone's answering the poll, welcome if it's your first time joining us for a webinar, and welcome back if you've joined us in the past. Today's topic, Fat Loss 101. Something our body has to have is fat, but something we might not want, you know? So it's a good topic. My name is Troy McFarland. I am the Director of Marketing for Fitness SF. I've been with the company for about 13 years and happy to bring our fitness professionals in here to share some knowledge with everyone. And, you know, I just wanted to start off and say fat loss, you know, I have a background in wrestling, and, you know, back in the day, we used to lose weight, gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, and for, you know, wrestling at certain weight classes. And the difference between losing weight and losing fat is different. And it's not the same thing. So I think we want to clarify some things about how to do that when you want to really lose fat and not just weight or not just water weight, not just what the scale says. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. So yeah, I will hand it over to our fitness professionals. We're joined by Stephen and Michael. Michael, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Michael Cockrum. I've been with Fitness SF since 2013. I've been a personal trainer for 11 years. I've got a background in nutritional science, done some research on vitamin A metabolism as it relates to obesity and insulin and glucose uptake. And I'm really passionate about nutrition and science. So I'm excited to hopefully give you guys this in a science-based way, but in a way you can take it and understand it and apply it to your own fat loss goals.
Super excited, Michael. Yeah, I think you have a talent for taking complex topics and making them understandable and digestible. And that's the whole goal behind our presentation today. Hey guys, I'm Steven. I'm a master trainer and education manager here at Fitness SF Mid-Market. Been in the training game over 14 years. And I help people get in the best shape of their life. And we're going to help you get in the best shape of your life today with our seminar on Fat Loss 101. And I really want to underline and highlight what Troy just said, because I think that's a great intro. And if you know anything about wrestlers and wrestling and weight class-based sports, if you've ever been in a weight class-based sport, you got to be a master of losing and gaining weight. So Troy has a lot of experience with that. But you know, we want to be specific about what kind of weight we are losing and gaining, right? If we're just losing weight, well, that could be water weight. That could be muscle, right? And we know, especially now, how important maintaining muscle mass is for health and longevity, right? So we want to maintain muscle mass. So today's topic, we're going to specifically focus on how to lose weight from body fat. And yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. So hope you're ready.
All right. So here's a quick summary of what we're going to go over. Understanding what your body fat percentage ranges should be, and kind of look at some visual comparisons. Go over metabolic rates and TDEE. We'll define that and talk about what goes into a metabolic rate and how to increase it, and how fat loss works, just like the core fundamentals about a calorie deficit. Like we just heard from Troy and Steven, weight loss versus fat loss, we'll touch on that. And then macronutrients. We won't go too into detail, but we're going to talk about carbs, fats, proteins, alcohol, and fiber. And you're free to ask some questions about that. There's a lot of misinformation online or misunderstandings. And then training for fat loss, talk about weightlifting versus cardio, and NEAT and daily steps and how those play into factor for your fat loss goals. And then lastly, touch about hormones and GLP-1s, which are super popular right now. So I want to make sure we touch on that too. All right, so before we start to talk about how you lose fat, we want to see kind of what is a healthy body fat percent range. I highlighted in the orange kind of a general, healthy range for men and women. Of course, you could be slightly above or slightly below and still be healthy. But for men, somewhere between 10 and 20% is generally considered a healthy body fat percentage, and between 18 to 28% for women. As you get older, that range is going to be the acceptable range will be higher because you're losing muscle mass and your body fat percentage is going to be increasing. That's not to say that we should just accept that we should try to keep our muscle mass, but that's a fact. So most people are average above 20% for men and above 28%, and most people want to get somewhere between, I would say, 13 to 15 for men. They want to be a little bit leaner, see a little bit of ab definition. That's kind of a realistic thing that you can maintain pretty easily. Even something around 16 to 19% can be better for your health than getting above 20 to 30%. So any information you want to add on that before I move on, Stephen?
No, this looks great. And if you look at the photos on the right, that's a good visual representation of what these different body fat levels look like. So, with any goal, you need to know where you are now and you need to know where you want to go. So what I invite you to do is just, have an idea in your mind of where you're trying to get to. And then you want to know where you are now. So if you haven't done a body fat percentage analysis yet, definitely you're going to want to do that. Very important part of burning body fat is knowing where you're starting and if your program is working for you. We have in-bodies available on the floor where you can, for free, assess your body fat percentage. And there are other resources available to you too. And we're going to give you a bunch of tools at the end of the call that will help you along your journey. So stick around and you'll get those tools and resources. And actually, now that I think about it, Troy, don't you have a special gift for people that stick around to the end of the call too?
Yes, thanks for reminding me. Well, we have a raffle. I've got a pair of tickets to one of our partners, Broadway SF. It's the Tony Award-winning musical Suffs. If anyone knows about it, it's about brilliant, passionate, funny American women who fought for their right to vote. So Broadway SF's a partner. So if you stay till the end, you'll be entered into a raffle to win a pair of those tickets.
Awesome.
All right, good. Stay to the end, get all the information. So we're talking a little about the in-body, which Stephen just mentioned. Before we do that, though, I'm going to get some definitions out of the way. So basic metabolic rate, or BMR, that's basically the amount of calories your body needs just to survive, for your brain, your heart, your liver. If you were doing nothing, something I tell my clients is like, imagine if you're in the hospital, God forbid, you're in a coma. That's kind of, you're not moving, you're not doing anything. That's how many calories your body would need to stay the same weight. Resting metabolic rate is very similar to BMR. It's including movement from walking, and then maybe you had a meal in the day, and then you got your metabolic rate tested, some more real world metabolic rates. So you can get an estimate for both of these using an in-body, which we have at the gym, or a DEXA. You can see on the in-body sheet, if you do an in-body test, it'll be on the right side. And the other way to do it is a metabolic cart testing. Most people don't need to do that. That's for research purposes, but that's going to directly measure the oxygen and CO2 concentration going in and out. And that's how you determine your metabolic rate. So
if I could just jump in, Michael.
Yeah.
So this slide, at a high level, if we zoom out a little bit, we're talking about energy, right? So fat loss, one of the most important things is energy balance. How much energy is going into your body versus how much energy is going out of your body through movement, right? And so all of these things that Michael is talking about, these are ways to measure how much energy your body is using up through activity and metabolism, which is important to know if you want to start to manage that energy balance, right? So that's why these numbers are important. you can get these numbers directly off the in-body sheet. So after you do your in-body scan, if you do it with a trainer, that trainer can print out the in-body sheet for you. So you can see these things right in front of you and then start to manage your energy balance.
For sure. And then as far as energy balance, so the BMR, RMR is part of your energy balance. To get the kind of estimate, a more accurate estimate, you have to include the energy from activity. So I won't try to focus on this too long, but TDEE, it stands for total daily energy expenditure. That's basically your maintenance calories. Everyone has, some amount of calories on average they burn throughout the day. And let's say you have 2,500 calories. A big majority of that is going to be the BMR, just from muscle mass.
Which is
And then,
base metabolic rate. That's just the cost of being alive, basically.
yes. And then the other parts are, yes, exercise is one part, but you can see it's actually a very small part. A lot of people think that they can, just lose fat by exercising a lot more, but then if you're still eating too many calories, you're not going to lose weight. Actually, a bigger part of your total daily energy expenditure is going to be from something called NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Things like your daily steps, doing chores around the house, standing, fidgeting. People are like constantly moving their feet or moving their fingers throughout the day. All those things burn calories throughout the day. Actually, more so for most people compared to your exercise that you're doing when you're weightlifting or you're doing your cardio sessions. And then there's a small percentage of calories burned just from digesting food. It's called the thermic effective food. Different macronutrients take more energy to process, and we'll talk about that a little bit on the next slide. But before I move on, I'm just going to briefly talk about how can you estimate your maintenance calories. So if you were to get your BMR from the in-body sheet, you could use this simple equation. So TDEE is your maintenance calories, and you times that by an activity factor, and you can just search that online. Here's a chart right here. So for example, if you're, let's say, I'm going to use this example over here. This guy is 52. He's 5'9". His BMR is about 1,800. If I take, let's say he works out 3 to 5 days a week, 1,800 times 1.5, he burns around 2,700 calories a day. That's just an estimate, but it's a good starting point to keep in mind.
Yeah, different bodies burn different amounts of energy. And so part of a successful fat loss program means finding out how much energy your body burns and then adjusting your intake so that you see the result that you want to see. And what's exciting about this information, and this slide in particular, is it empowers you to tip the balance in your favor. So there are strategies that we can employ to elevate BMR. So you're using more energy just by being alive. There are strategies we can use to increase your NEAT so that you're burning more energy. Strategies we can use to increase the thermic effective food so you're burning more energy, and then exercise strategies. So we can really tip the energy balance in your favor using these categories.
Sure. All right. Next point, calorie deficit. And we'll talk about fat loss versus weight loss, which we talked about a little bit. Kind of the most important thing I think most people should take away from this webinar is that you need to be in a calorie deficit to lose fat. If you're not losing fat long term, then you're not in a calorie deficit. Different people have different metabolic rates. So, you can't compare your metabolic rate to, if you're a 5-foot woman and you're comparing your metabolic rate to Steven, 6 foot plus, 200 pounds, he has a large metabolic rate. So he can eat a lot more calories and still
6'5",
lose weight.
220, Michael, but yeah, pretty close.
Exactly, 6'5", 220. So if you're not losing weight, you're probably just not in a calorie deficit. That's where tracking can come into help, which we'll talk about towards the end. General things to keep in mind are 1 pound of fat is equivalent to around 3,500 calories. So if you do a 500 calorie deficit per day over the course of a week, that's going to be about 1 pound of fat that you would lose. And then if you double that, 2 pounds of fat, those are kind of like the general, like, good healthy ranges for fat loss per week. Anything more than that, you should be consulting with a doctor, of course, but unless you're really morbidly obese, you probably don't want to be losing 3 pounds of fat per week. Again, we're talking about fat, not weight. So the fat we're talking about is subcutaneous fat is one. That's the fat you can pinch on, you can see it in the mirror, the fat that's covering up your abs. that most people want to lose. And then there's also visceral fat, which is underneath your abs, right? That's the fat that can make your gut look distended and bigger. And it's actually problematic for insulin resistance, inflammation, heart disease. It pretty much increases your risk for all cause mortality. So something you definitely want to get down, and it's something that does come down just with general weight loss and fat loss more specifically.
Quick point
And
on
then,
this slide,
yep.
Michael, if you don't mind, is I want to make the point that stress management is very important in a fat loss journey. The more stressed out your body is, the more difficult it becomes to lose body fat. And when you go into extreme calorie deficits, like beyond 1,000 calories a day, that's an additional stressor on your body on top of whatever stress you're already dealing with. So it can actually be quite self-defeating to be in a deep calorie deficit if your stress levels are high. Like you need to balance the stress that you're placing on your body with the other stressors in your life if you want to see good results here.
Sure. And then weight loss, we already talked about a little bit, but weight loss is just what it is. It's the total weight on the scale. You can lose a lot of weight in a week. Like you could just cut out carbohydrates and lose 5 pounds of weight, and stop drinking water. You're gonna lose weight, like Troy did when he was wrestling, right?
Yeah, what's the most weight you lost in a week, Troy?
I don't know if it's a good or bad thing if I say this. Probably 10.
And then probably most of that was water, right?
Yeah.
Maybe some of it was fat.
Yeah. Definitely not the healthy way to crash cut like that. But yes, it's possible. But again, it's not sustainable, right? We're here to have sustainable, healthier habits ongoing. So it's like if you're just crash dieting up and down, it's still not that great, right?
Well, you're a performance athlete, right? So you're in a unique camp, right? The demands are very unique. You're trying to make weight and then gain as much of that weight back before the match as you can. So very different. Our seminar is not about how to cut weight for wrestling. It's about how to
right. Sure. Yeah, so weight loss can be a little deceiving. A lot of people, we'll talk about diets a little bit on the next slide, but a lot of people, it's common, oh, I'm going to cut out carbs. Carbs make me fat. And then they lose weight, and they're really just losing water weight and glycogen, the stored carbohydrates. But we'll talk about more on the next slide. So macronutrients, carbs, proteins, fats. Those are the 3 essential macronutrients. A macronutrient is just a nutrient your body needs to function and stay alive. And then there's also non-essential macronutrients like alcohol and fiber, which is a form of carbohydrate. Fiber is super beneficial for a lot of reasons, makes you full, helps with your immune system. We'll talk about that on the next slide now. So this whole slide is about carbs. This one is really important to me. I think it's really common. I meet with a client and they say, oh, I'm going to cut out carbs. Carbs make me fat. Every time I eat carbs, I gain weight. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with because people are eating low carb diets, and then when they do eat carbohydrates, they gain a lot of water weight back, and they gain a lot of glycogen. So when you eat carbohydrates, you actually store that in your muscle and your liver as glycogen. It's just a storage form of carbohydrates, and with that comes a lot of water. So when you do cut that out, you're going to lose a lot of water weight at first, and that might seem like you're losing weight, but long term, you're probably not. Carbohydrates are super essential for life. You need it for your brain. It's essential for red blood cells. If you're not eating enough carbohydrates, your body will break down protein and make carbohydrates so that it can survive. So you definitely don't need to cut out carbohydrates to lose fat, something I probably wouldn't recommend. Another reason why you don't want to cut out carbohydrates is because these whole food carbohydrates, like fruits and vegetables, whole grains, they have fiber, and specifically soluble fiber. We're learning more about it now. First of all, it helps you feel full, so that's good for fat loss. You want to feel full, and then otherwise, it helps you actually produce GLP-1, which is like Ozempic, Wegovy, endogenously. You secrete it, so your gut bacteria, they ferment fiber and they produce it to something called short chain fatty acids, and then that stimulates the release of GLP-1 and something called PYY, which is similar to GLP-1's actions. That increases your satiety, so it means you feel full. It slows gastric emptying, which means that your food takes longer to leave your stomach. Again, you're going to feel full longer, and then it helps you with your blood glucose. That's because it's helping you release more insulin. So Typical.
And
Yep.
Mike, I was just going to say, I'll let you finish.
I was going to say typical recommendation is about 40 to 55% of total calories from carbohydrates. Of course, that's super dependent on your own preferences and goals. But that's something that I would, generally recommend as a range for most of my clients. You want carbohydrates for your energy in the gym. It's that quick energy that's going to help you do a couple more reps, when you're weightlifting or when you're doing cardio. So definitely you don't need to cut it out. So you guys have anything to add?
I just wanted to jump in and say there's a couple of questions I think we could touch on really quick that
Oh yeah,
I think
sorry,
are
I didn't have the
important.
questions open.
How do we know that calorie deficit is leading to fat or weight loss? And in general, how do we ensure we're losing fat, not just weight?
You should be tracking. If you go to the fitness stuff, track on the InBody once a week. Like get a baseline, and then you need 3 measurements to see a trend. So track once a week over the course of the month. If the InBody is saying that you're losing fat, then that's probably a good sign. If your fat is not changing, then you're probably not in a calorie deficit.
And then we've got another story / question over here. It's someone that Nur had the first weight loss journey, maintained a calorie deficit, walked 12,000 steps a day, kept diet on track, lost 16 pounds in 3 weeks, unfortunately regained the weight. Now started a new weight loss journey 2 weeks in, following the same routine, but I've only lost 2 pounds so far. Is this common?
You want to take that, Stephen?
Sure. Yeah. Basically what's going on, the reason you've only lost 2 pounds this time versus, I don't know how long so far is, but it sounds like you're concerned because you're not losing as much weight as you had lost previously. And that is almost certainly due to the difference in energy intake. And keep in mind that metabolism is variable, right? So even if your energy intake, like the number of calories you're eating, exactly matches the previous plan that you did, you might be in a place in your body where your metabolism is lower. So you're not actually using as much energy as you did during that initial cut. And often what happens when you do a cut, which is what we call a fat loss program, is your metabolism slows down. And so there's this concept in bodybuilding called reverse dieting. And so a reverse diet is slowly increasing your calories while doing lifting. So you increase your lean mass and increase your BMR and rev your metabolism back up. So you want to bring that metabolism nice and high. So your metabolism is just like this inferno that just burns calories like crazy. And it might be that your metabolism is like not an inferno right now. It's like a little fire, right? It's burning some stuff. But we want to rev that metabolism, and we want to create this big bonfire metabolism. And we do that through consistent progressive resistance training, building lean muscle. And that's going to really help keep that metabolism level high, which will help you with your routine. So I hope that helps. I hope that puts you on the right, that gives you the right next step to follow. If you need any clarification, please ask some follow-up questions.
Yeah, I put Michael and Stephen's email in the chat, so feel free to email them separately. They're more than happy to do a complimentary fit session with you. It's our introductory session that we offer. To touch on Stephen's point, we're also partnered with a company called Inside Tracker, and they test your blood. They give you recommendations based on, they do biomarker testing. And so one of the panels that's in there is metabolism. And to Stephen's point, if you actually don't know where you're at that moment in time, then, your body's metabolism could be a lot lower than it was, like he's saying. And the only way to actually know that is to do some of this biomarker testing. And this is something that's really starting to take over in the fitness and wellness space right now. And we were kind of, one of the first people to really start trying to push this, along with not just working out, but hey, tracking what's going inside your body, and with your blood biomarkers, and using wearables, and that's the holy grail. So we're trying to put all the pieces together to understand what's really going on with your body and you as an individual. So Michael can explain more of that later. And yeah, we have a couple more questions, but I think let's move to the next slide, and we'll come back to some of these questions.
We will address every question by the end of this call. We'll just address some of them at the end.
Yeah. All right. Just a quick little question to keep you engaged. Do I need to avoid carbohydrates to lose fat? Answer is no. You don't need to. You need to be in a calorie deficit. That's what's important. You don't need to avoid any macronutrients specifically to lose fat. The calorie deficit point. So if you cut out carbohydrates, that's just a way to cut down on calories, assuming you're not replacing those calories with protein or fat or alcohol. Do carbohydrates cause diabetes? This is a common thing I hear too. Like, oh, I need to stop eating carbs. My blood sugar is too high. Carbohydrates don't directly cause diabetes. And I'll talk about this a little bit at the end. Diabetes caused by, or at least type 2 diabetes is caused by insulin resistance, which is worsened by excess fat storage if you're overweight or obese, especially visceral fat, inflammation and activity, and then chronic stress and poor sleep.
One thing I want to highlight is something you said on the last slide, Michael, which is that if you're avoiding carbs, you're also avoiding fiber. And if you're avoiding fiber, you're releasing you're missing out on the release of natural GLP-1s in the body that help you to lose weight. So it's almost self-defeating. You're like cutting out carbs to try to lose fat, but then you also cut out your body's natural way of producing GLP-1s. Like, that doesn't make sense. And one other point related to that is low carbohydrate diets tend to drop hormone levels. One particular is leptin, and that's going to tank your metabolism. So in order to keep your metabolism fire going, we need to keep that leptin level high, and we can only do that by having some carbs. And so I think you're right on with your recommendation. I think it was 40 to 55% of total daily calories coming from carbohydrate.
Yeah, something like that. If you're not used to eating that many carbs, you could gradually increase, but get used to eating that amount of carbs if you can. Of course, you got to discuss with your doctor, your dietitian first before anything, but just a general overall recommendation. So protein, we're going to go through this one a little bit faster because we went through this more in detail on the last webinar, but it's essential for muscle repair and growth. A good recommendation guideline is about 0.7 grams to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Unless you're very obese or overweight, then you would use your lean body mass. That's one way to do it, which you could find on your in-body sheet. Because if you're 400 pounds, you don't need 400 grams of protein. That's super excessive, right? Maybe you have actually like 150 pounds of lean body mass, so you could eat 150 grams of protein. In a calorie deficit, you need more protein because you're not getting enough calories, so your body's going to use some of the protein for calories, not just for building muscle. So that's one reason why you do want to try to get towards that higher end. Total protein throughout the day is more important than timing. You don't have to try to be like, oh, I need to have protein every 2 hours or 3 hours. It might help a little bit, but overall protein throughout the day is more important. And then the other thing that's important is leucine, 3 to 4 grams per meal. If you're eating meat, you probably don't have to worry about that too much. But if you're a vegan or vegetarian, that's something you should probably keep in mind. If you track your food in a calorie tracker like Eat Love or Chronometer, you can see a whole detailed report of every amino acid, and then you can see leucine, how many grams of leucine you're eating a day. And then kind of last thing that I talked about in the start, thermic effect of food. Protein has the highest thermic effect. So you can see this little diagram over here, 100 calories of an egg or bread or fat. You're actually only going to absorb about 70 to 80 calories of that egg, because 20 to 30 calories are going to be used for digestion. So what that means is if you eat a higher protein diet and a higher carbohydrate diet, you're going to actually burn more calories, even just from just eating. So another reason why I kind of tend towards a higher carbohydrate diet or moderate higher carbohydrate diet instead of a high fat diet is because of that as well.
And one additional thing about protein is it's very satiating. When you get, like, your body has to work to break it down, right? So if you have a lot of protein in your digestive system, your body's going to be like, hey, we're full. We don't need any more food for a while. We're working on this food that we have, right? So that's going to make it easier to stay full between meals. You'll get less hungry, feel less of a drive to eat. And so it's really a double-edged sword. This is a powerful tool right here.
And I think before we go to the next slide, we should
Yeah.
touch on a couple of these
Some
questions. So
All right.
we can kind of run through these. So from Paolo,
I think,
is the strategy
yeah.
to lose visceral fat different from regular fat?
I would
I'm curious
say
your answer, Michael. I
I
have
would
an
say
answer.
overall,
That's
the most important thing is just assuming that you're overweight. Just you need to focus on losing fat. You're going to lose fat overall. There's certain things you can do to help reduce your visceral fat more. Like if you're drinking a lot of alcohol, which we'll touch on the next slide, that's going to encourage more visceral fat storage. So that's one thing. If you're stressed a lot, you're going to store more visceral fat. So those are some things to keep in mind. But overall, still the important thing is you need to get your body fat percentage down to a healthy range. That's at least my opinion.
Yeah, that's spot on. Michael's absolutely right. And alcohol is a stressor as well. So, stress management is key here for the visceral fat. Checking your alcohol intake, very important for the visceral fat. There's one piece that I want to add, which is high intensity interval training has been shown to decrease visceral fat at the highest level. So you want to have high intensity interval training in your program. Now, the thing is, high intensity interval training is also a stressor. So now there's another stressor you have to manage, right? So it's important to balance your program, but a great way you can incorporate some high intensity interval training into your fitness program now is to do, I would start with 1 time a week and then work up to 2 times a week as you adapt. But to do high intensity interval workouts 1 to 3 times a week, building up to that. And what that would look like, here's a great example. I want you to Google Sprint 8. Okay, I want you to Google the Sprint 8 workout. You can do it on any of the machines at the gym. All right, it's a 30-second sprint followed by a 90-second recovery. Repeat it 8 times. You do a warm-up and a cool down at the end. It's a fantastic workout, and that is a great HIIT workout that can help you target that visceral fat, in addition to the things that Michael said.
great. We had another question from Tracy. I lose weight, but I don't lose much around my belly. Any suggestions for what I'm doing wrong? I'm eating healthy, balanced, and sometimes low carb.
So again, it comes back to weight loss versus fat loss. So we don't know if you're losing fat or if you're just losing weight. Also, we don't know how much weight, like how much you weigh, how much fat you need to lose. So that belly fat is kind of like one of the last things to go. So if you have a significant amount of fat to lose, then you might be losing fat, but it might not show up on the scale, on the in body, or even visually for a while. Like a month or 2, 3 months. It just depends. So.
Yeah, Michael's absolutely spot on. Again, that lower belly fat is the last to go. That's the first thing everybody wants to get rid of, and it's the last to go. And it's not going to go if your stress levels are too high. So I would look at your sleep. Are you sleeping minimum? I mean, absolute minimum 7 hours. And I don't mean 7 hours in bed. I mean 7 hours asleep. All right. So if you're spending 8 hours in bed, you're probably spending 7 hours asleep. That can make a big difference in terms of your ability to lose that last little bit of stubborn belly fat, assuming everything else in your program is organized the way it needs to be, right? That's often the missing link.
And when all this research has come out about sleep, like to just touch on that, it's made me rethink sometimes. And I'm not by any means saying don't go to the gym or don't do a workout, but if there's a day where I'm pretty slammed for time and I can't get a workout in or something, I make sure I get the sleep instead, because it's to me, it is almost like a workout at this point. Like that's how important the sleep is. And so for me personally, I've been taking that more into consideration of, as part of that as a whole. If I can't get to the gym or do whatever, I'm trying to get that extra sleep. I know that will help with my,
that's such a great point. And it also highlights the importance of making it to the gym on the days that you do have time, right? Because life happens, stressors come up, right? And so a lot of, if stuff comes up and you need to prioritize your sleep and you miss your workout, like, hey, that's fine. But make sure you're getting those workouts in on the days where your schedule is manageable and allows you to do it, right? Don't miss days because life has a tendency of happening. So we need to get those workouts in when you can do it.
Okay, sure. Great. I think we can move on, Michael.
Yeah.
And we can come back to the others.
All right. Continue on macronutrients, fat and alcohol. So fat, you do need to eat fat still. Don't cut out fat either. Don't cut out any macronutrient. You should know though that fat has more calories per gram, so it's 9 calories per gram compared to carbohydrates and protein, which is 4 calories per gram. So it's more than double. So that just means you can't eat, if you're eating a high fat diet, you can't eat as much volume of food. There's essential fatty acids you should make sure you're getting, and they can be harder to get if you're in a deficit. Omega-3 and omega-6. Omega-6 is actually, that's pretty easy to get. Omega-3, that's a little harder. So unless you're eating lots of fish, that's something you might look into supplementing. And then again, 20 to 30% of daily calories from fat for most people. If you're doing keto, obviously you're eating closer to 60, 70% of fat. So that's where it comes down to personal preference again, and conversations with your doctor and whatever they recommend as well. And then thermic effect of food, fat has the lowest thermic effect, doesn't take much to process it, and it just goes straight to storage. Cooking oils, this is important, are often a form of hidden calories that most people don't think of. So oftentimes I'll be with clients and they'll be tracking their food saying, oh, I'm eating 2,000 calories. I should be losing weight, but they're not thinking about, okay, I'm eating eating 3 meals a day, and I'm using 2 tablespoons of cooking oil in each meal. And 1 tablespoon of cooking oil has around 100 calories. So imagine you're eating 6 tablespoons of cooking oil a day. You need a 500 calorie deficit to lose weight or to lose fat. That kind of removes your calorie deficit, or it could remove your calorie deficit. Alcohol.
It's actually happened to
Yep.
us too. That happened to one client. They were on a consistent downward trend with their body fat, and they hit a plateau. And we were trying to figure out what was going on with the plateau. And what we realized is that they were using a much larger portion of almonds than they initially thought. And because almonds are basically pure fat, they're very energy dense, right? That portion size was enough to kill their calorie deficit for the day. And so they spent like 3 or 4 weeks at a plateau just because they were taking in more fat than they thought, like their portion was off. And so it's important to really manage your fat intake, especially if you're on a cut.
For sure. Also, one thing I'm going to just mention real quick is that a lot of people, they say like, oh, I'm going to cut out carbs. I'm going to stop eating French fries and stop eating chips because they got too much carbs. But those foods are actually, a majority of the calories are from fat because they're deep fried and they're cooked in cooking oil. So again, it's not that fat is bad for you. You need fat. It just has a lot of calories. So if you're trying to lose weight, monitor your fat intake for sure. And then alcohol, this one's not essential. There's pretty much no benefit to alcohol. Some of the benefits that they used to think, like for example, from red wine, came from the compounds in the fruit, not from the alcohol. So alcohol, it has a lot of calories, almost double that of carbs and protein, and excess alcohol intake actually promotes visceral fat storage. So that fat that goes under your belly makes your gut little distended looking. So if you're trying to lose fat, that's another thing to monitor. A lot of times people will, do good in the week, and then on the weekend they'll kind of, I won't say binge, but oh, I have like 3 or 4 drinks on Saturday and Friday and Sunday, and then all of a sudden your calorie deficit, the average for the week is obliterated by those drinks. And then maybe you had some fatty foods, right? Because when you're drunk, you want to eat some French fries and some hot dogs and all this deep fried food. So all those things together, things to monitor.
And on top of that,
Yeah,
alcohol prevents you from entering the restorative stages of sleep. So you also just wrecked your sleep too, which is the most important thing to bring your stress level down, right? So it's a triple whammy. It's like screwing you up in so many different ways here.
for sure. And your performance, yeah, the next day, right? If you're hungover the next day, maybe you don't want to go to the gym. Maybe you skip the gym. Maybe you're not able to push as much weight or do as long as your cardio session as you would have. So it's something that sets people back a lot. I put a quick calorie comparison here. 30 strawberries, mostly carbs and fiber, is equivalent to about 1 tablespoon of olive oil, or 4 ounces of chicken breast, or 5 ounces of wine. So again, something to keep in mind. A lot of people say they're going to cut out carbs, but look how much strawberries you could eat. These high fiber foods compared to 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Which one do you think is going to make you more full? Which one do you think is going to help you lose fat?
Dude, I don't even think I could eat 30 strawberries in one sitting.
Yeah,
I'd be so
it's a
full.
lot. Same thing, watermelon's like 3 cups or something, 4 cups of watermelon. So don't avoid fruit, eat fruit. It's good. All right, next, we're going to try to speed up a little bit because we're getting 40 minutes here, but I won't try to go too fast. So workouts for fat loss, weights, cardio. We'll talk about NEAT a little bit. So weightlifting is super important when you're going through a fat loss phase. You want to maintain your muscle mass. That's the main reason why you want to weightlift, and you want to train your muscles at least 2 times a week. There is something where, after you exercise, it's called elevated post-exercise oxygen consumption. So you're burning calories, a little more after your exercise. But again, like we talked about in the start, the significant amount of your total daily energy expenditure is coming from your basal metabolic rate. So, which is largely influenced by how much muscle mass you have. So even though that's a true fact that you're going to burn more calories after you work out, the main reason why you want to weightlift is to maintain or even build muscle mass. And then cardio, it supports your fat loss goals. You're burning more calories. Most of your cardio for fat loss you probably want to do in zone 2. It's less fatiguing. You're more likely to use fat, so which is important because then you can save your glycogen for when you're weightlifting. You want that for when you're weightlifting. That's not to say you shouldn't do zone 5 or like high intensity interval training, but as Steven mentioned before too, right? It's a good thing. There's a positive. It helps you burn more visceral fat, but then that can also be a negative, right? It's very stressing. It can increase your cortisol, can make you more fatigued. If you're more fatigued and you're pushing less weight when you're weightlifting, that's going to be a negative because maybe you're going to lose more muscle mass than you would have if you had done something a little more, less or lower moderate intensity.
Michael,
Yeah.
to kind of clarify for everyone
Yeah.
and for myself, when you talk about the zones, when doing cardio, being in zone 2, I don't think a lot of us understand what that means. Like what does it mean to be in zone 2?
Sure. It's just a percentage of your max heart rate. So zone 5 is something like 90 to 100%, depending on where you look. But that's what it means. It's how intense your cardio session is.
So if you have a wearable, you can track this pretty easily.
Yeah, Apple Watch, Garmin. I think even Oura Ring might give you a heart rate zones if you're wearing it. You could also have it.
It's not great for mid workout. I've found.
Yeah.
The watch wearables tend to be a little better, but these don't read well at high heart rates. So the best thing you can get is a chest strap. So if you're really committed to your fat loss journey, get the chest strap. Most chest straps will actually pair to your Apple Watch or Garmin or whatever wearable that you have. So then you can see it, and your wearable will tell you what zone you're in, which makes it just so much easier to hit that zone. Okay, if you don't have a wearable, a lot of the machines in the gym have those metal pads on the handles, so you can grab those. And then a good rule of thumb is to keep your heart rate at 135 or below. And if you're above 100 but below 135, you're pretty much probably in zone 2, depending on your age and fitness level.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right. Moving on. So steps. It's a form of NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So you burn a lot of calories just from walking around. That's like one of the best things you could do for fat loss goals. It's not fatiguing. It's great for recovery. It's good to do after you have a meal. If you have a meal, I see Tracy, for example, puts 30 strawberries, have a lot of sugar. Well, it also has fiber, but even if you eat a high sugar meal, if you go for a walk after, you're going to absorb that glucose into your muscles more readily without the need for insulin. So that's going to help decrease your blood glucose right after a meal.
Yeah, quick anecdote on that. A lot of diabetics have to take metformin after a meal to lower their blood sugar spike. But research has shown that going on a 10-minute walk is more effective than metformin at lowering the blood sugar spike. And it's free.
Sure. And then key takeaways. I mean, I'm gonna move past that just for the sake of time. So next slide, hormonal factors and GLP-1 drugs. We're not gonna spend too much time on this, but there are some things that happen when you're in a long calorie deficit or prolonged calorie deficit and when you're fasting. So cortisol can elevate, that encourages the breakdown of muscle to convert it into glucose, because again, your body needs glucose to survive. It needs to fuel your brain. It needs to fuel your red blood cells. Your testosterone can decrease. which can make it harder to maintain muscle mass. And it can also decrease your sex drive. It's something that happens a lot when people are in calorie deficits. Your thyroid decreases, your metabolism slows. If your deficit's too large, SHBG, that can increase, which can effectively kind of decrease your testosterone. So same effects as low testosterone. Your leptin, those decrease, and increases hunger. One little note is if you're very obese, you could be leptin resistant. So you could have you don't have the normal signals to your brain like telling you, hey, I should be full right now. And then ghrelin, that's a hunger hormone. So it increases when you're fasting, especially in your calorie deficits, telling your body you need to eat. And then glucagon, something that gets released when you're fasting again or calorie deficit. So it's breaking down the carbohydrates that you store in your muscles and your liver and releasing it as glucose so your body can use it. And also helping encourage the breakdown of amino acids to convert to carbohydrates.
And
All right.
again, everyone, we know this is a lot of information that we're taking in, so we will be posting this on YouTube probably next week. We can also send the slides out to anyone who's interested or wants them. But this is a lifestyle, so we're going to continue to talk about these things, and we're going to continue to keep inviting you guys to more webinars so that repetition is key. No pun intended. Sure. Just like doing the reps at the gym. It's like the more you do it, the more you talk about it, the more you understand it.
Got to get your reps in, baby. Let's go.
For sure. So this last slide, kind of more high level. So don't worry if you don't understand it. It's fine. But basically, I think it's important to bring up though, because a lot of people talk about GLP-1s and Ozempic. So we should kind of understand or try to understand why we're taking these things. So insulin resistance or diabetes type 2, that's something that happens when your cells become less responsive to insulin. Insulin is what helps your body bring in glucose into your cell. When you're overweight, if you have too much visceral fat, your body fat percentage is too high, you have a lot of inflammation, you're not moving around a lot, that insulin receptor doesn't work properly, and then glucose can't get into your muscle cells. So your blood sugar is going to be higher, your insulin is going to be higher because it's trying to get that glucose into your cell. So what you can do to help insulin resistance is just drop your body fat percentage and exercise. Those two things are great. And obviously, also don't be smoking cigarettes, reduce your alcohol intake. Those things will help as well. And then GLP-1, more important, a lot of people are, hopping on these because they think it's like a quick, miracle drug to lose fat. And it definitely can help you lose fat. And the way it does that is by reducing your appetite, and that helps you feel full longer. But like we mentioned before, fiber is if you eat fiber, your gut bacteria convert it to short chain fatty acids, and then that stimulates the release of endogenous GLP-1. So before you think about hopping on something like Ozempic or Wegovy, you should look at how much fiber you're eating. That should be your top priority. It's going to do the same thing. It's going to make you feel full. It's going to delay the food releasing from your stomach, again, making you feel full. And it's also going to help you release more insulin, just like GLP-1 does. So a really important thing is that you could be taking a GLP-1 like Ozempic or Wegovy and not lose fat or weight if you're eating too many calories, because it's not doing anything to your metabolic rate. It's just making you feel more full. So it's not a miracle drug. It's great for some people, but it also has some negative things, like if it's suppressing your appetite so much where you're not eating enough protein, you're not eating enough calories, and you're not weightlifting, you're going to lose more muscle mass. And as we talked about, and bone density, and we talked about in the start, muscle mass is like the biggest influence on your basal metabolic rate. So that's something that's happening to a lot of people. They call it like Ozempic face. You see they're all shriveled up faces. It's symptoms similar to anorexia. So it's just under eating and malnutrition. And then a quick summary slide, just to wrap it up, unless you have anything to say about that real quick. But I'll go through these points real quick. So 10 to 20% body fat for men, 18 to 28% body fat for women, usually a good range and sustainable. Fat loss requires a calorie deficit. If you're not losing fat, you're not in a calorie deficit in the long term. and 500 calorie deficit is usually good. Protein and resistant training are really important for maintaining muscle mass and maintaining your metabolic rate. And then you don't want a super large calorie deficit. Don't go on these like juice fast or water fast as like a quick fix to try to lose fat really fast, because you're going to end up losing more muscle mass. And that's going to decrease your metabolic rate, right? It's going to make it harder to actually keep the fat off long term. GLP-1s suppress your appetite. They don't increase your metabolic rate. They don't replace a calorie deficit. And then there's some general practical tips here. And then lastly, these are some tools you have access to at Fitness SF that can help you with your fat loss goals. Eat Love is great for tracking your nutrition. You can talk to it and tell it all the food you ate in the day. It'll recommend food for you to order directly to your house. Like I said, it'll tell you a breakdown of every single nutrient. Super useful. It's free to use. It's in the app. Inside Tracker, which was mentioned briefly. It's a biomarker testing, and then it gives you personalized nutrition and supplement recommendations. So to tell you, all right, you should eat this food because your iron's low, or you should eat this food because your testosterone's low. I give you that kind of recommendations. In body, if you're trying to lose fat, you should be tracking, my recommendation, once a week at least, to track your trend over the month, see if you're losing fat. If you're not losing fat over that month, then you're wasting your time. You need to look at your Eat Love and make sure you're in a calorie deficit. And then Chosky, we didn't touch on this, but that's a way to test your VO2 max. You could find your heart rate training zones if you want to do that. We do that at the Castro location. And then Fit Session, super valuable. It's free for you if you're a member. 15-minute session. You can book with the trainer. You can book with Steven at Mid Market. You can book with the trainer at the Castro. You go over your in-body, you go over your goals, go over your movement, and then you go over a short workout, and then you go over your plan. That's important. What are you going to do? How are you going to lose this fat? What kind of workouts should you do? Nutrition advice, all that. You could book that all in the app. You can see on the left here. You could book your Fit Session, Inside Tracker. We also have Swim Fit at the Fillmore. And then
Awesome.
Yeah, and to just touch on that really quick, those things are super important. We try to, as members, we want you guys to have the most value, and so we're continually trying to add new partners and things that can be of value to you. And the Fit Session is great. I know a lot of you had questions, so you'll get a trainer one-on-one for that hour, and that's complimentary if you have not used it already. Same with the in-body, that's complimentary. That's on the weight floor. That doesn't cost you anything. You can go to any gym has them now on the gym floor. And now if you need help kind of understanding what the numbers mean, then that's where the Fit Session can come in handy. You can do the in-body, you can reach out, talk to a trainer, book that session through the app, etc. So I just wanted to touch on that.
For sure. And then real quick, we offer a hormone balance test through Inside Tracker. You can get all these markers tested that influence your fat loss goals. If you're interested, you can set up the chat to learn more about that. And then here's just me and Steven's contact information if you want to reach out to us directly. Follow us on Instagram. We'll answer any questions that you have. I'll stay on this call for a little bit and answer some questions. Yeah,
we
have a good. Yeah, we've got like 6-7 minutes left. We can hammer through some of these questions. We've got. Let's go back to the top where I kind of lost. Okay, so from Adrian, if I'm losing inches but very little weight, am I losing fat?
Almost certainly, yes. Your body composition is changing. And so, often what happens is you gain muscle at the same rate as you lose fat, especially in the beginning. So if you're seeing your waist inches go down, that's generally what's happening.
And Adrian, do the in-body. Test one per week.
All right. And then from Sean, do antidepressants change your metabolism?
We're not doctors, nor do we play doctors on the internet. So it depends on the antidepressant. There are certainly antidepressants that cause weight gain. It depends on the side effects. I've certainly worked with clients who have gained weight due to medication and struggled to lose it again. It's not uncommon for that to be true.
Yeah.
Right. And then I think we answered the cardio. Can cardio help with losing fat? We kind of answered that one. Why is belly fat the last to go? We kind of answered that one, right? If you want to touch on that again, but
if I could just touch on something with the cardio question, Troy.
Sure.
Too much cardio can be self-defeating if your stress level is high and you're not able to recover from that volume of cardio. So the right amount of cardio is important. More is not always better. And so a good rule of thumb is to keep the majority, 80% of your cardio volume to that zone 2 level, and then limit the amount of time you spend in those higher zones.
Yeah.
And then how do we increase BMR? This is
The main
from
way
A
is
again.
get your muscle mass up. That's going to increase your basal metabolic rate. So weight train close to failure, train your muscle groups twice a week. You should watch our muscle building webinar that we did last month if you want to learn more about that specifically. It's also on YouTube.
And eat carbs.
And eat carbs. Yeah.
Great. Yep, to answer Ronald's question, yes, you don't need to schedule the InBody in advance. Unless you want to do that during your fit session with a trainer, you can. I know that you guys do that, right, Steven? Like you guys will put people on the InBody as part of their fit session, but you can just walk up and use the fit session. There's instructions right there on a kind of a flyer or poster in front of it.
Yep.
John, is psyllium a good fiber supplement? I take it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good fiber supplement. Something about fiber though is, every like an apple and a pear and a cucumber and a potato, they all have different types of fiber, which have different effects on your gut bacteria. So psyllium husk is just one type of fiber. Really, you should try to get a variety of fiber sources. So, get a lot of different, just like I said, different fruits, different vegetables, different whole grains and whole foods.
Yeah, I want to highlight the question, which is it a good supplement? And the answer is yes, it's a good supplement, but it's supposed to be a supplement, right? You're supposed to get fiber in from your actual food that you eat. And it's totally possible to get enough fiber without a supplement because you're just eating, like if you eat a lot of beans and rice, you're going to get a lot of fiber. Pinto and black beans are some of the best fiber sources out there. So that Chipotle burrito bowl starts looking a lot more attractive.
Are HIIT workouts usually in the zone 2 zone?
Generally not. They're more in the zone 4, zone 5, but HIIT is interval training, right? So you have an interval of high intensity, and then the recovery interval is often in zone 2. So part of HIIT workouts are often in zone 2, but that's just the recovery part of the interval. And then the high intensity part of the interval is in zone 4 or 5.
InBody has equipment. Oh, no, okay.
From James, what about body pump and aquafit classes? Weight or cardio?
Those are great forms of exercise. If that's something you like to do, you should definitely go for it. But again, if you're trying to lose fat, the most important thing is calorie deficit. So all those things are things you can add in addition to help you burn a little bit more calories. Definitely the most important thing is you find something enjoyable. So if you enjoy going to aquafit classes more than being on a treadmill and walking it on an incline for 30 minutes, then you should do that, is my opinion.
That's a good point. I mean, it's like habit stacking. It's like if you're feeling good doing one thing, you should keep doing that thing. Like that, if that's we're all different and we all enjoy different things. From David, I read somewhere that I should be consuming protein within 90 minutes of finishing my workout. Is that true?
Can I just jump back to the last question? I would consider
sure.
body pump and aquafit to be HIIT training classes, actually. They have a resistance element, but I would consider them more to be HIIT-based training. To then now go back to the 90-minute, we call that the anabolic window, right? So what's actually more important than consuming protein within 90 minutes is consuming carbohydrates within 90 minutes, especially if you're trying to preserve lean muscle levels. And usually a post-workout shake should have some mixture of protein and carbohydrate in it. They found that a 2-to-1 ratio is the most anabolic and does also lead to greater fat burning. So that would look like something like 20 grams of protein and 40 grams of carbs. Now you want those liquid proteins right after your workout because those are going to go to your bloodstream super fast and your body's going to put them to work right away. So it is best practice to do
I just want to say Oh, thanks, Stephen. Sorry to cut you off. I think we might get cut off here, but I just appreciate everyone joining, and hopefully you learned something today, and we will see you next time. Thanks for all the questions. I just don't want to get cut off, and so yeah, but we will see you next time. We have more to come.
Absolutely.
Bye, everyone.
For sure. All right.
Yeah, great talking to you
Bye-bye,
guys.
Thank you. Yeah, reach out if you have more
Bye.
questions.
All right. I'm gonna dip to my session, so